Well, so I want to kind of do a deep dive into the term influence. We'll just talk about that for a few minutes. So, one, what is the meaning of the word influence to you?
So there's a lot. You can go in many different directions there. I would add positive influence to the word influence itself.
Okay.
I mean, for me, it could mean a number of things. So it's influencing opinion, it's influencing activity, it's influencing decision making. But in the end, for me, it's about guiding somebody to the answer.
Positively.
Yes, or working with that person to get to the right answer. I may not have the answer myself.
But I like that you started with positive. That's the first thing that came out of your mouth.
Sure.
A lot of people say, well, it's an impact. You know, it can be negative or positive. But you decided to take the positive, which I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, what good is influence if it's not for a positive benefit?
Correct.
To those that are involved. So thank you.
Yeah.
Next, if I add the word strategic to influence or influencer, how does that change the meaning?
So now you're thinking, I think of strategic influence as more of a time continuum. So it's not there in the moment. You actually are thinking in advance of, and there's a strategy actually attached to it. And you're still kind of thinking influence in the realm of how do you get things done and do it positively and have that impact on people and vice versa. But I think it just becomes a longer term view. That
Strategic, you know, strategic is absolutely a long-term foundation or basis. And we're talking about people here.
Sure.
Now I'm going to add the next word, which is strategic relationship influence.
So then that takes me to like a spheres of influence, actually.
Okay.
So that takes me to understanding who are those impact players that can actually help you achieve that goal and move in the right direction. So, it's not uncommon to know who are the informal and formal leaders. I think that's a worthwhile exercise when you're thinking about a group of people. And from there, you decide who's going to have the most positive influence on, the direction you're trying to go in.
Awesome. Okay, now I'm going to one last term, and then we'll go down this more personal route. But
sure.
So center of influence. So Stephen Covey was the first person I ever heard say the word, or the term center of influence. And if you go out into the world and you meet insurance people, real estate people, they all say they have these centers of influence. They call them COIs. So you need to acquire as many COIs as you can. And what they refer to as people that can give them referrals.
Okay.
So on a micro basis, and the book here gets into, I'm talking to CEOs and leaders of companies, is more macro or mega kind of influencer. But on a macro basis, I see that. Who's the person that can lead me to people that can help me be successful? But what does center of influence mean to you? And we're talking about people here, not organizations. It can be an organization. UPS is definitely a center of influence, but I'm talking about people.
Yeah. So when I think about my own hierarchy and the people that I work most closely with, there are differences between the way they influence their own work groups. And so for me, that center of influence, it can be hierarchy-based, but not necessarily. It's somebody that can lead and get things done through others, and then also have that strategic mindset and make sure that they are also building up that team through those positive exchanges. So they're willing to put the sweat equity into developing this network of people one at a time, right? And that is hard. That takes time to actually do that. So for me, it's not really about the hierarchy. It's actually an individual or a group of individuals where I would say, okay, that's a center of influence.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, question for you. Are you an influencer?
I mean, I try. I think it's important. And I would answer that by saying I don't force a decision on anybody, actually. I do a lot of listening. We do a lot of debating back and forth. But in the end, it has to be the decision that is made by the person I'm talking to, because then it'll get done right, and there'll be belief behind it, and they'll put the energy behind the idea, because it's not me telling somebody what to do.
Well,
so I try to influence that decision, actually.
Well, I tend to think that you're actually defining it really well, because your influence is impacting them to do something that they can do that
Sure.
makes a great result. So, center of influence. Are you a center of influence within your industry, within your domain?
How should I answer that? Within our industry and domain. I think through the actions of our company, I try to be.
Yep.
So how we deliver, to millions of customers every day. Again, it feels like we're building up that credibility one customer at a time. Internally, it's one employee at a time, of course. But yeah, I think you actually have to be and really define yourself as an influencer. If not, then you're just barking out kind of orders and direction, and they may or may not be followed, I think, in the end.
So well said. So one of the things I teach is that you don't self-proclaim, I guess. You don't stand up and say, I'm your leader, I'm your influencer, you'll follow me.
That's terrible, actually. That would be the biggest turnoff.
Wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
But there are people that once they get the title, they think
Sure.
there's
I've seen that too, yes.
there's a requirement for you to do what I say.
Yeah.
So the next principle then, that you just really basically outlined is that you have to assume the role, the responsibility,
Yep.
the importance of the role you're playing,
Yeah.
so other people feel like you're keeping their role, their life in perspective, and that you'll actually help them achieve their goals.
It's not about the hierarchy. So
Yeah, good.
I have a really great manager that works for me. And I love this saying, so I kind of use it from time to time. If you think that you're as important as what your business card says, and you act and behave just like your title dictates on your business card, you're not going to do very well,
Yep.
because
It's really true.
that's actually not going to work. That's kind of using the hierarchy to declare that you're in a leadership position, and that's not what leadership is, actually. Leadership is those exchanges one at a time, and you build up a team of people that actually believe in you, and you're willing to take the edge off of all the bad news and all the things that have to happen for those people to be successful.
I like that you're coming back to this one by one, engagement by engagement, person by person, because you have to do that. You can't
Sure.
put a group of people in the room and satisfy all their needs. You can't
Right.
do that. So one of the things I sometimes write when I give someone a book, I'll say the title of influencer must be earned.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about. You have
Yeah.
to earn the right for people to call you an influencer and want to follow you and be motivated by you, be inspired, which you also talked about, which is really good.